good to have you with us on the 9 p.m. edition of the Urban Debate. Let's straight away get you the latest developments in the Sushant Singh death probe. And from what it looks like outside the DRDO guest house, we may see a bit of activity there. Remember, Rhea Chakrabarti has been at this guest house where the CBI team is camping since morning. Rhea Chakrabarti is being questioned there. It's been over 8 hours and counting. Will she be coming out anytime soon? Well, we'll find out. Over the next 30 minutes, I'm going to bring to you all the updates, every single angle of the investigation that is being done into Sushant's death. Now, there are multiple agencies, multiple probes, the multiple set of developments that have happened today, but we'll give you all of those facts and updates in just a bit. First up, let's go across to Mayuresh, who's at the DRDO guest house. Mayuresh, it's been 8 hours and more that, CBI has been grilling Rhea Chakrabarti. What more can you tell us?
Certainly, Tanvi, CBI is quizzing Rhea Chakrabarti since last more than 8 hours. I'll ask my cameraman Sahil to show you the visual. You can see that now the two police vans have come. One is a van, one is a vehicle over there. And one vehicle with a woman constable had gone inside. So it's kind of an indication that police is going to give a kind of a clear passage to Rhea to directly go from this place. But we are still not known that what would be the exact time, what time she will come. As you asked me about what exactly happened, yes, Rhea was questioned, she was quizzed by CBI team over her relation with Sushant Singh Rajput, about their companies which they formed together, in which Rhea's family was also involved. They were also on board of directors. Also about Sushant, who stayed for 2 months in one of the resorts in Mumbai, why he was put up there. Even about Sushant's medication, what problem exactly he was having, and if he was on medicine, then why Rhea left him on the 8th of June. So all these kind of questions CBI have asked him, because we had given to understand that CBI had prepared a questionnaire, and one by one they were asking. Just to give a background, this is an 8-day, from past 7 days, CBI were calling all people who were related either to Sushant or to Rhea Chakrabarti, and people like Neeraj or Siddharth Pithani, who was specially were there on 13th night and 14th. Initially, their investigation was about what exactly happened on 13th and 14th, and when they found the discrepancies in the statements of these people, they called them back over and over. So that's the news that we all are waiting here, because the indication is clear. When the police van, the local police van have arrived, it is kind of a clear message that police wants to give a clear passage to Rhea Chakrabarti, so that from here she can move or go directly at her place. Back to you.
Okay, Mayuresh, stay on with us, because we'll keep coming back to you. You are where, the next set of developments may just happen. So we will keep bringing you back into this conversation. Let's also say good evening to our managing editor, Vinay Tiwari, who's also, joining me in this broadcast. Vinay, we've accessed the set of likely questions broadly to give us a sense of what all it is that the CBI will be looking at, as part of their questioning of Rhea Chakrabarti. And it's an exhaustive set, not something that, they can perhaps finish in a day. These kind of, questioning and investigations could actually go on for several days.
It can, and questioning a suspect or questioning an accused is just the stage one of a process. Sometimes in stage two, there is also a confrontation that is planned between two different people who differs before the police, and that confrontation is part of a legal strategy that the investigators very often use. So that depends. It may not necessarily happen, but there is also an option or a possibility that may happen, that she is confronted with certain facts that have been stated contrary by any of the other people who've been called in for questioning. That's a distinct possibility in this case, because remember, there are a lot of people who have been questioned already by the CBI, and very obviously the questionnaire that they have administered to Rhea Chakrabarti today would have included a whole lot of specifics that came out of the questioning of the other suspects and the witnesses to this case as well. So it may take several days for sure. All the activity that you're seeing behind my race, there's a lot of energy and excitement there, but if any of the viewers are actually of the feeling or believe that there could be a likely arrest, that's not going to happen, because Indian law does not allow a woman to be arrested after sunset and before sunrise, except in very exceptional circumstances. So that's something that's not going to happen tonight.
Okay, and of course, because they've taken their own, a long time to actually summon Ria and start questioning her. They questioned Siddharth Pitani, Sushant's roommate, Neeraj, Sushant's house help, for days together. Vinay, got every other angle, all their other facts in place before they called Ria Chakravarti, which means that they're well prepared and they will have a series of topics and angles to cover. I just want to highlight some of those as well, because from her relationship with Sushant, when they met, what happened, till the 8th when she left, to the health condition of Sushant, the medicines that he was taking or was being allegedly given, to what extent was she taking decisions for him in his personal life, her interaction with with Sushant's staff, a lot of cross-checking over there about basis what others have already told CBI. All of this is going to happen, and it may not be within a day that they get to decide, unless Vinay, I mean, there is a possibility that she, often we see investigators come out and say, oh, suspect XYZ is just not cooperating at all. So even though we're not done with our questioning, we think we need to take this person in custody to follow up with our question. Like you said, not possible tonight because it's post-sunset, arrest is difficult. But that has happened in the past as well, where on day one, a suspect has been arrested after questioning.
That's right. Look, I mean, in the art of questioning, there are two things that are very critical. It is not really the quality of question alone that makes a difference. What actually makes a difference is the inconsistencies of the statement given by the suspect. And these inconsistencies then form the backbone of what the police may term as suspicion, and then use that grounds of suspicion to actually ask for custodial interrogation. Because remember, right now, whatever questioning is happening is non-custodial. She is not in custody of any investigative agency, and custodial agency interrogation obviously has a greater and a larger legal ramification and value as well. So clearly, it is not just what questions are being asked to her. I think what is equally important is the answers that she's giving to those questions. How consistent are they to exactly the same question that must have been asked to other witnesses and suspects as well? When you put the exact same question to 3 or 4 different suspects and different witnesses, and the answers are different, there is grounds for suspicion. That is pretty much the standard technique that any interrogator uses while questioning a suspect. And I'm sure that the reason why they've called Ria Chakravarti much later and much after they've already questioned others is precisely for this reason, that they want to see how many answers that Ria gives are inconsistent with all these sequences they've been able to establish in the questioning of the previous suspects, Tanvi.
Okay, Vinay Tiwari continues to stay with us. Let's go back to the reporters on the field who are tracking multiple aspects and multiple, angles of this investigation. Mayuresh is still with me. We'll also go to Neha and Alok in just a bit. But Mayuresh, the other aspect, of course, also is the ED probe and the Enforcement Directorate, which is looking into money laundering, and also now this new drug angle and the drug link. We understand that they have issued a summon notice to Gaurav Arya, the hotelier from Goa who was having these conversations with Ria Chakravarti. Take our viewers through those details.
Certainly, the narcotics, or we can say the NCB is a new angle to it. You mentioned the name Gaurav Arya. ED, when they had confiscated the phone as well as other electronic devices of Ria, while going through her phone and chats, they found that she was speaking with a person called Gaurav Arya, and she was talking about the drugs as well as the banned substances to procure. It's all about the procurement, and so in that scenario, they had issued a notice to Gaurav Arya. So who is Gaurav Arya? Gaurav Arya is a hotelier from Goa, and he's got few hotels in Delhi also. But we have been given to understand that he was friends with Sushant also, and he used to communicate, or he used to speak or chat with Ria regularly. And what ED has found that in this chat, they have found
Mayuresh, I'm going to come back to you in just a bit, but I think there is some amount of activity behind Neha. Let's go across to Neha. Neha, what's happening at the DRDO guest house?
Absolutely, Tanvi. You just saw that seconds ago we showed live how Riya Chakraborty has left from the DRDO quarters where the CBI had summoned her early in the morning. It was almost close to 10 hours of questioning that happened today. This is the day one when the CBI called Riya Chakraborty for questioning here. We also understand that Shovik was present inside when the questioning was on, and about just seconds ago now, Riya has left from the DRDO quarters where the CBI was present and where she was being questioned throughout. Now, between this, Tanvi, let's also tell our viewers what happened throughout the day. We understand that inside the questioning, there was Siddharth Pitani, there was Neeraj, both of them who were the creative managers of Sushant Singh Rajput and also his house help. At the same time, we understand that there were people, Samuel Miranda also, who was present inside. Now, just seconds ago, as we showed you all, Riya has already left from here. Almost the questioning went on for about 10 hours and Riya has left in her car. We are expecting, it is likely that she will be moving to her house. But Tanvi, it is very important to note here whether she will be called again for the questioning tomorrow, because remember, like how the other people in this case who are directly related, including Neeraj.
Yeah, no, in fact, Neha, let me also tell you, this is, since you are live with us, our other reporters have told us, Neha, that she has been summoned again. That yes, as she leaves, and Neha is there live right now, you can see the movement, Riya Chakraborty in that car just, leaving from the DRDO guest house, but she has been summoned again, and that was largely expected, not a surprise over there. But Neha, of course, 9 hours of questioning today for Riya.
Absolutely, Tanvi, and in fact, she came here at about close to 10:45 a.m. Here at the DRDO quarters. If I can just ask my video journalist Rajesh Khare to pan and show you all what the situation is here right now. This is the quarters at Santa Cruz where the CBI has been questioning the key people related to the case, be it Neeraj or be it also at the same time Siddharth Pitani. And now, just minutes ago, Riya has also left from here. She was questioned for about close to 9 hours. Remember, Tanvi, it's a very important note what exactly remained the questions by the CBI, especially because she was someone who was also closely related to Rajput. She knew him closely, and the fact that FIR at the Patna police station has been filed against her and her entire family. One more important thing to tell our viewers is also that about in the evening, about close to 7 p.m., there was also a car that had come in from the Waterstone Hotel Resort inside, and the Waterstone Hotel Resort remains the same place where Riya and Sushant Singh Rajput had gone. They were there for the spiritual healing therapy of Sushant Singh Rajput. Earlier in the investigation that the CBI had carried out, CBI had visited the Waterstone Hotel Resort at least twice to speak to the managers regarding this case, and they were also seen going inside today. So definitely, Tanvi, everything related to how much Riya knows about Sushant, what was his medical treatment like, and especially what was his mental health status. All of these questions have been asked to Riya is what is definitely expected from at least the first day of her round here at the CBI, with the CBI.
Okay, that's interesting. The fact that, their visit to this specific resort where allegedly Sushant was undergoing some sessions is also a big focus point for the CBI, and that's something that they have been constantly following up. Well, Riya Chakraborty is done for the day, but it's going to be a tough, a few days for her for sure. Today was just day one of her questioning. She has been sent back home for the day after 9 hours, but she has been summoned again. So there will be lots more, like we were telling you, lots more of questions that she will have to answer, and this will continue. Vinay, as we were pointing out to our viewers, and you rightly said, arrest unlikely today. There will be, of course, more questioning. Now we know.
Yes, absolutely. And just to add to that point, since Neha was mentioning about how long this grilling continued, one of the other reasons why it takes a long time for interrogations or questionings of this sort is that not only do they confront you with different people who may have also deposed or given their answers. Sometimes the same question is asked by multiple teams as well. And that's a bit of a process of psychologically wearing you down, because if it is a rehearsed or a practice story that a suspect comes with, you are likely to make a mistake if the same question is put to you repeatedly by different teams. That's a technique that again police officers use very successfully in many cases, where the same person is asked the same question by 3 different teams through the day, and that's why it takes that long. So when you say 10 hours today, they would have possibly looked at only one aspect of the case today, and it is quite possible that while Nupur Prasad must have been constant in that particular interrogation team, there would have been different inspectors who would have walked in at different times with the same set of questions and would have very minutely looked at the inconsistencies that may have been given in the sequences, because that is how the inroads and the evidence starts showing up. And then a second team of CBI officials would be then going out into the field to correlate or corroborate some of the claims that have been made. And when Neha mentioned about the Watergate resort, that was possibly a corroboration exercise, because this is how you corroborate the information that is being given out by a series of people that are being questioned in the case. So a lot of teams you will see will move out from the DRDO guest house, smaller teams of CBI, to go to different locations that may have been mentioned by Ria in her questioning, and they would take out or seek out corroboration on ground whether the claims were adequately correct or not. Tanvi.
Yes, Vinay, before Riya Chakravarti's, questioning ended, we were talking to Mayuresh about the angle about the drugs. And the drug dealing and the drugs consumption, which not just the Narcotics Bureau, but even the ED is still looking at. You wanted to come in and make a point there?
No, actually, the point I wanted to make was this. Look, this is a slightly unusual case in terms of the NDPS Act, because the case has been registered on the basis of WhatsApp the messages that have been exchanged between a set of people. Now, the NDPS Act has some very clear provisions. There are provisions that are linked to the quantity of drug that you may be possessing, because remember, seizure of drugs is a very important piece of evidence to produce or prove a drug charge. There is a definition in the NDPS Act which tells you something called minor or commercial, and there is then a quantity in between which is also considered liable for prosecution. But if there is no possession of a drug that has been found on you, or there is no seizure of a drug, the only really section that can work for you is an acquisition or a charge of drug addiction. And that's where the trick lies. And I can see that the sections 22, 27, 29 that have been registered against Riya Chakravarti, one of them is about drug addiction. Now, in the charge of addiction, Tanvi, Indian law, the NDPS law, provides for immunity from prosecution under section 64 if the person who has been accused of the crime pleads guilty and agrees for a de-addiction program recognized by the government of India. So technically, if you admit that you were an addict and that you were consuming drugs as part of an addiction, the law says that the government can grant immunity to you if you agree to undergo a particular program of de-addiction which is prescribed under law. Of course, there are caveats in it that if you don't complete or finish the course, the immunity is withdrawn. So there is that point. So for the Narcotics Control Bureau, it will be tougher to prove or slightly more complicated to actually move forward in terms of Riya's case. But in terms of Gaurav Arya, it seems the police is trying to build a larger case of commercial use and not just an active consumption case as well. And that's why you see that the teams today have landed up in Goa as well, and they are posting a notice for his appearance for different agencies as well. Tanvi.
Yes, in fact, on that note, let's also bring in Alok, who's been tracking all the developments as far as the Narcotics Control Bureau is concerned and their investigation. Alok, where have they reached today? What's happening with that investigation?
Tanvi, what the sources from the Narcotics Control Bureau told us that they are saying they are just collecting the papers, they are collecting the documents that are related to this case. They also went to ED office and they have collected the documents and the proofs which were already shared, and some more proofs that they have to be shared, and that's what they have got. But apart from that, what they are saying that Riya Chakravarti and Sushant Singh Rajput case is just a tip of an iceberg. work. And what they are saying that in the coming days, they are going to be widen the network of their investigation across Mumbai, and that also include Goa. Remember, there are several rave parties always keep happening, in fact, in Goa or Mumbai, and many Bollywood or celebrities usually takes part and attend these parties. And what the NCB is believing that there is a big network that is working inside the Bollywood industry as well. And Reha Chakravarti and Gaurav Arya is the part of all the nexus, and that's why they are trying to reach out to Gaurav Arya as soon as possible. Remember, Gaurav Arya is the name which is cropped up new in this whole investigation. However, the other persons, the set of people whom Reha Chakravarti was talking to, were those people who were not new. They were already being gridded by ED or CBI. But Gaurav Arya is the person who is outsider. He's a businessman, hotelier. So his role is very much important in the investigation of the drug deal. And remember, Reha Chakravarti chat is also mentioning the date, that is March 2017, where she had talked about MDMA. MDMA is a drug. So this is what the NCB team is working on. Various teams have already been formed in Mumbai. There are 50 personals who are already been deployed of the NCB. This is Mumbai zone. They are also being, in fact, tasked for various things. They are working on it. They are reviving their network, and definitely, Tanvi, you are now going to see lot of raids in Mumbai and Goa. And many people will be nabbed, and many people will be questioned. That includes the drug peddlers and also the celebrities. Back to you.
Okay, so that's as far as the NCB, Narcotics Control Bureau probe is concerned, and the aspects that they are looking at. But like when I pointed out, the leads may be there. Proving the case with actual charge and evidence is going to be a whole different ball game, and we'll have to wait and watch how the NCB really does that. Now, if I can actually just go back to our reporters on ground as far as the CBI investigation is concerned, and back to Reha Chakravarti, Neha. We know on day one, she was questioned for 9 hours. Any indication of, what were the questions that were asked? And if she is being summoned now, when will that be? Do we see her back tomorrow morning itself? What's going to happen?
Yes, right. So, as you were mentioning, as we were talking about correctly, about how on the day one, Reha was questioned for close to about 9 hours, and just about minutes ago, we have seen her car coming out. Reha has come out after the CBI was questioning her for close to 9 hours at the DRDO quarters in Santa Cruz, where they've been since the past 1 week. Now, we understand, Tanvi, considering it is day one, we were being told that obviously the CBI will try to at least try to establish the basic relationship that Reha has had with Sushant Singh Rajput, and the entire nitty-gritties about the duo, the couple, whatever at least she knew about his mental health, because Tanvi, CBI has been trying to talk to doctors, try to get medical evidence, or speak to managers or people whoever were in the know of Sushant Singh Rajput's mental health, be it at the hotel resort where he took treatment, or visiting the Cooper Hospital, or trying to contact the doctors. So all of this shows that how the CBI has been trying to get evidence in that matter, and which is why they will be asking Reha especially about whatever she knew about his mental health. Having said that, there will be specific questions asked about how Reha came to know about Sushant Singh Rajput, and what was the relationship of Souvik Chakraborty, specifically Reha's brother, with Sushant Singh Rajput, whose obviously name has been dragged into the case. An FIR is also lodged against him, and at the same time, Tanvi, most importantly, there were others also present inside where the questioning was going on, which include Neeraj, Siddharth Pithani and Samuel Miranda. Now, these are especially Pithani and Neeraj are the people who were there in the house when Rajput allegedly committed suicide. So confirming everything that they have said till now with Reha also remains important, and we understand that most of it, at least the base of it, would have been done on day one here. Considering now she is summoned again tomorrow, there are more questions on the financial transactions of whatever the CBI has found till now will be asked to her specifically, we believe, and it will be interesting to see at what time she comes in, considering as today's day one questioning went on for close to 9 hours. It will be noteworthy to see when she comes to the DRDO quarters again for the questioning by CBI.
That's very interesting, the point that you raised, Neha, and I just want to take that back to Vinay again, for the way these investigative agencies work and slowly build their case, asking questions, cross-checking as well. And again, Vinay, to that point you were making, they will be looking at what Siddharth Pitani has said, what Neeraj has said, and what Riya Chakrabarti is saying. Maybe go back to some of them and then, cross-check each other's versions to see whether or not this will match. And that's going to be the exhaustive process of questioning before CBI really takes a decision. Not to forget the doctor's angle, that Neha was just mentioning. They've already spoken to some of the doctors who did treat Sushant at some point of time about the medication that he was taking.
Yes, and look, contrary to a large number of people out there nowadays, especially in the modern era when everybody has access to social media, contrary to what they believe, investigation is not exactly a black and white science. It is not something which you can decide at the snap of a finger. It's a very complex, detailed, and not so easy process. There are, of course, very skilled police officers that a lot of Indian police agencies have. CBI has them as well. But it's still a very complex process. You cannot decide or collect prosecutable evidence. And when I say prosecutable evidence, I mean enough and more information to first file a charge sheet and then to go on and secure a conviction. It's a rather complex job. There are many aspects involved in it. The CBI's job is just about begun. Questioning a suspect is just the first round of it, Tanvi. Remember, there is also, this is just one part of the linking evidence chain that you need to produce in a court to secure a conviction. And of all the difficult crimes that police has to investigate, abetment to suicide is probably one of the toughest ones. And that's why you will see that the level of conviction that you see is very, very low in abetment cases. I mean, very few abetment suicide cases actually end up in terms of convictions. But the fact is that in this case, Riya is not just accused of this. There is a parallel investigation by the ED, which is into financial dealings. That has a very different approach to investigation as well. The Enforcement Director's investigation is largely paperwork and actually establishing the financial trail that a person involves himself or herself in. Whereas in Narcotics Control Bureau's case, it will be a lot about, the actual seizure of the drugs or the linking evidence of the whole of supply mechanism that is used in Bombay or in other parts of the city. So there are three very different kind of probes going on, and each one of them have their own complexity. So it will take time. It requires very painstaking and a very detailed amount of effort, not just by questioning people, but also by collecting physical evidence on ground. Because listen, the CBI has spoken to the autopsy doctors, but we do not know whether the answers that they've given are coterminous or consistent with what independent experts from AIIMS, which have been roped in, have said as well. It's quite possible that they may say that this is consistent to what has been observed in autopsy cases, usually by doctors, Tanvi.
Yes, and of course, a very interesting part there was also the timing of the death, which is not mentioned in the autopsy report, something that the AIIMS team has now raised. But like you said, they will have to match the two to see what the other Cooper Hospital doctors were saying. Very quickly, going back to Neha before we move on, Neha, also the one angle that you raised about the specific, resort that the CBI team has also visited. Take our viewers through those details. Where does that fit into the entire story?
Well, Tanvi, I was not able to hear you properly, but I will just like to, I have deferred from
Neha,
what you've asked
tell
me
us about
correctly,
the
that,
details of the resort
if I could take you
that the
through
CBI
whatever
team is
CBI
also
has
looking
been
at.
up to today.
Yes. Now tell us about the resort that the CBI team also visited where Sushant
Right.
stayed
So,
and was
now,
undergoing
Tanvi,
certain sessions.
Absolutely. So, Tanvi, in the past 1 week, we've seen CBI definitely visiting different places, which include even the Cooper Hospital, where the post-mortem of the late actor was conducted. CBI has tried also meeting the doctors at that place earlier before when they came, at least on the second and the third day. We also saw them visiting the residence of the late actor. They went there at least twice to be able to reconstruct the entire crime scene, what exactly would have happened, the incident there, and at the same time we understand that the forensic officials were there present with them. But again, as far as this questioning is concerned, Tanvi, we understand that at least till now, every day, the key people in this case, which include Neeraj, Sushant Singh Rajput, cook, and Siddharth Patani, his former manager, these have been the people who have been constantly called by the CBI, and there are various reasons for it. While earlier it was because there were no similarities being found in the statements being given by the two of them. Later we saw that the CBI started even calling the other people who were closely associated, which include Keshav, who was the cook, also present in the house then, and at the same time even Dipesh Sawant was called, his house manager, and at the same time even these three were questioned repeatedly by the CBI. But interestingly, Tanvi, the people who have now come off fresh in this investigation from the people we have seen coming to the DRDO are also the watchman of Sushant Singh Rajput building. He has been at least called twice now by the CBI. Even he's been asked questions about what exactly did he remember seeing on the same night, about the CCTV cameras, especially the fact that why was one of the cameras suspiciously not on. All of these questions have been asked. At the same time, at least the manager of the Waterstone resort, we have seen here coming at least twice. So the CBI is trying to look into all the angles, recreate and narrate the entire story, and at least speak to the key witnesses, the key stakeholders in this case who knew anything about Sushant Singh Rajput, so that the link is established and the facts can come out.
All right, thanks so much, Neha, for joining us and bringing us all of those updates. Neha, Mayuresh and Alok, tracking the multiple agencies and that investigation. The big the story and the headline of the day, of course, was Rhea Chakrabarti being questioned. Day one of her questioning by the CBI. She's been sent home for now, but she has been summoned again. Thanks to Vinay Tiwari as well for joining us on this conversation and helping us understand how these processes work, the investigation really progresses, and what could be next in line. With that, we move on to the other stories. We will, of course, keep a close track on any further developments that happen in the Sushant Singh death probe. Well, in other big stories from across the country, there's been quite a bit of monsoon mayhem in various parts. Apart from the fact that it's raining right now in Mumbai, it also rained heavily today in the national capital, causing waterlogging in several areas. In fact, we got details from, waterlogging from Greater Kailash, Indraprastha, Janpath, leaving vehicles to wade through flooded roads. That's what we could see on the visuals as well. The Met Department has predicted light to moderate rainfall for Delhi, even for the next couple of days, but they had warned of heavy rainfall last couple of days as well. It's only today that we saw quite a bit of rainfall in the national capital. But let's get details from some of the other parts of the country where situation is a lot more dire and dangerous right now. Flood-like situation has emerged in several areas of Chhattisgarh's Raipur. The visuals on the screens are actually from one village in Raipur district specifically, where floodwater entered several homes. Normal life completely disrupted. People were forced to move to safer locations. They've had to abandon these places and move out of here to safer locations because of this flood-like situation. So those are the visuals that we actually got from Raipur in Chhattisgarh, one of those places badly impacted by floods in Chhattisgarh. Odisha is the other state that's borne the brunt of it in the last couple of days. 5 people, in fact, have been killed in flood-related incidents in the deluge that has happened just in the last 24 hours in the state of Odisha. The Met Department has issued flash floods alert in the state that happened yesterday, and that is still applicable right now. Over the last 1 month alone, 12 people have lost their lives in various flood-related situations in the state. 7,000 people have had to be evacuated to safe zones. Meanwhile, the gates of the Hirapur Dam, one of the big ones, were opened to release the excessive water that in Baitarani and Brahmani rivers, since these rivers were now touching the danger level. So that's obviously also led to an impact with heavy water really flowing. But flood-like situation in several parts of Odisha. 5 people have been killed in just the last 2 days. 7,000 people evacuated in the last few days that we've got. From Odisha, let's move towards Rajasthan and get you the latest from Jaipur. Jaipur also continues to face brunt of what you could call flash floods. Several rivers really overflowing in that district. Visuals on your screens show fire service officials rescuing a newborn baby along with 6 other people from the inundated areas in Jaipur. Imagine this happening in a city like Jaipur where it's become a problem now, but that visual really of the baby being rescued really creating an impact. I stand corrected there. These are the visuals that have actually come in from Jajpur, also in the state of Odisha. Apart from, of course, what's happened with the Hirakud Dam, special flood-like situation there in Jajpur, where we saw these rescue operations take on. Let's move on to the state of Madhya Pradesh, where 9 gates of the Tawa Dam in Hoshangabad's Itarsi district were opened. All the gates have been raised by 6 feet, releasing over 1 lakh cusecs of water. So a big dam there because of heavy rainfall, now crossing danger levels, and then that's why the gates have had to be opened of the Hoshangabad Tawa Dam that's come in. A BJP Panchayat member Nisar Ahmed Bhatt, who had been missing since last 10 days. The body was recovered from an orchard in Jammu and Kashmir, Shopian district, and the cops were alerted. Further investigation was underway. The big point here, viewers, is another BJP Panchayat a member who's actually been murdered. And this is the 5th BJP Panch who's been killed in Kashmir in the last 2 months. Fareed is joining us with more details on this. Fareed?
Yes, Tanvi. In fact, this BJP Panch, who actually is from outskirts of Srinagar in Khanmu, had gone missing 10 days back in Shopian. That's a place in South Kashmir. Since manhunt was on, the security forces were searching new areas, but in between there was an audio clip that went viral, apparently from militants who had claimed responsibility for abducting this particular Panch, and also had made it clear that he's already dead. Further adding that his body was not handed over to his family because that the security forces do. They do not hand the bodies of the killed militants to their families. So it was a kind of a tit for tat reaction from the militant side. That audio was being verified, but this morning, locals from an orchard in Shopian discovered this dead body, and as the police came in, he was identified as Nisar Ahmed, the missing Panch. But just a few hours after that, there was an encounter in the same area of Shopian, and where 4 Al-Badr militants have been killed, including a top commander. And now the police is claiming that 2 of them were responsible for the abduction of this Panch and also killing him. So what they are trying to suggest is that this case, already they found the killers and they have been neutralized. But as you rightly said, the bigger scenario is that BJP grassroots workers and even bigger leaders are being targeted by militants in a systematic manner. Not only in South Kashmir, we've seen them targeted in Badgam, in Bandipora. So that seems to be part of a bigger plan to spread fear in the rank and file of the BJP cadre in the Kashmir Valley. And for that, the BJP top leadership and also the police have their work cut out, because we've seen of late spate of resignations from BJP leaders. Obviously, they are frightened. They are terrified. Their lives are in the line of fire. So you won't blame them for putting in or throwing in their towel. So that is a bigger challenge, and these attacks are also continuing, and threat is also persistent. Tanvi?
Okay, in fact, Farid, like we know, there was also a follow-up action where 4 terrorists were gunned down. One was caught alive. This encounter that took place between the forces and the terrorists. So obviously, a crackdown has happened, and in that crackdown, we understand they also were terrorists who were involved in the murder of the BJP punch Nisar Ahmed. So a larger conspiracy there, and the forces now trying to track it down and break it up completely. Farid, give us more insights about what the police forces are telling us right now about how this was plotted and carried out, over a period of several weeks.
Yes, Tanvi, as I said, it seems to be a bigger plan. It's not restricted to Shopian or it's not restricted to a one particular militant outfit. All of them, it seems, are unanimous in targeting BJP grassroots workers. And we have seen, as you rightly said, 5 of them targeted, at least as far as Panchayati members are concerned. Then also had an ex-district president of BJP gunned down along with in Bandipura. So that is something that is happening, and just to secure them, as of now, there was an emergency protection plan of the police where from vulnerable pockets of the Kashmir Valley, BJP leaders, grassroots workers were picked up and kept in safe houses. But we know they protested. They said that this is not the final solution. They can't remain confined because of a threat away from families. They were then released. So it is a massive challenge. Confidence down, obviously, and that's why BJP leaders, even Ram Madhav was here, and probably they're also trying to tackle this particular aspect because once their lives are in the line of fire, you won't blame them for resigning or when they're not protected. So it's just a massive challenge for the security agencies to protect them, and that too when you have a case where it seems that all the militant outfits have decided to target them, and then when you have small grassroots level workers scattered all over, so they are easy targets for the militant outfit. So it definitely is a very big challenge. But as of now, as far as this case is concerned, as you rightly said, the police is claiming that they've already neutralized the people behind this, the militants who included a local commander. They were behind the abduction and killing Nisar Ahmed. So this case has been solved, but obviously the bigger challenge persists, it remains, and that is something that they'll have to take care of. Back to you.
All right, Farid, thanks so much for bringing us all of those updates. As far as what's been happening in Kashmir is concerned, the specific targeting of BJP punchers and them being murdered in cold blood. Thanks, Farid, for joining us. Well, as India gets ready for the next phase of unlocking and the details of which should be announced in the coming couple of days, Mirror Now spoke with one of India's topmost doctors, Dr. Randeep Guleria, the director of AIIMS and one of the experts leading our fight against coronavirus. We specifically, in fact, spoke with him about the post-COVID care, the risk of reinfection in those who've already recovered once, and whether there is a concern of the virus spreading in the upcoming festival season. Here's an excerpt of that exclusive conversation.
The recovery rate of India has gone past 75%. At the same time, there are some cases where the patients have been coming back to hospital with some kind of anomaly. There is a post-COVID care that is required. To talk on this and many more things, we have AIIMS Director Dr. Randeep Guleria. Sir, thank you very much for your time. So this is a new phenomenon that we are witnessing right now, the post-COVID care. Can you explain what is this? How many of the patients we are getting? AIIMS also has a center for that. What is the kind of response that you are seeing in this?
So in the beginning, we were concerned about managing COVID and the acute part of COVID and trying to save lives and prevent the spread of the infection. But now after 6 months, we're realizing that many patients have what we call residual effects of COVID. They can be very mild, like fatigue, body aches, lethargy. And many patients say that they recovered from COVID in June, July. But even now they feel tired, they are not able to work, they're not able to concentrate. So that is a post-COVID myalgias and a post-viral effect. But there are some patients who have more serious effects because COVID, as we know, affects many organs. It can cause damage in the lungs, which can be significant, and therefore these patients need, after recovering, some degree of rehabilitation, some medicines, some degree of other support. Some have COVID affects the heart. their cardiac function comes down and they get breathless on mild activity, they get out of breath. Some need oxygen at home. So now we have to develop strategies of how do we manage these patients in the long term and how can we improve their quality of life. So the government has actually is now setting up what we call a clinical trials registry, where we will follow up. First, we will have a registry for all COVID patients, so that we know how is the COVID presentation in our country. Is it different from other countries? At the same time, this registry will also follow up patients to see how many of them develop post-COVID sequelae, and the follow-up will be for about 1 year, and therefore we will get more data as to what is the percentage and what is the different types of sequelae that we see.
We have been seeing this sero survey. Every state is conducting it. In fact, Delhi has done twice and third one is in process. Sir, how long does the antibody last in a person's body? And we have seen cases in Hong Kong and in Telangana, the minister accepted that there is a case of recurrence of COVID. How challenging is this and how do you see this? Has any incident reported to you in AIIMS about that?
So this is again something that we need to find out. One is antibodies are formed, but we do know that antibody formation varies from individual to individual. There are studies which suggest that in some people there is very good antibody response. In others, the antibody formation is not that high, and therefore their protection is less. How long this antibody response lasts is not clear. It is very important because it has a bearing on the vaccine itself, and we need to follow up all our patients to see how long does this antibody response last.
We have around 75,000 cases. What do you think? Have we plateaued the cases? Are we yet to witness the peak, or the downfall of the number will come soon because winters are coming and even countries are preparing for a second wave?
So I think, like I've said before, in many areas, we have seen a peak and the curve has come down. In many large cities that has happened. But as a country, we are now gradually reaching a stage where we would be plateauing. How long that lasts and how quickly we can bring it down depends on multiple factors. It depends on, of course, where the infection is, but also depends on what we would say is human behavior. If we all follow classical physical distancing, hand washing, wearing a mask regularly, the spread of infection will come less and the plateau will be sustained and will come down. The concern that I have is that now with the festival season coming and people really going out, whether it's shopping, it's meeting friends and family, and if we don't follow these norms, we don't wear a mask, we don't maintain physical distancing, we will definitely see an increase in number of cases because of the festival season. Therefore, I would actually want that if we want that plateau to happen and the cases to come down, we have to be very aggressive in maintaining social distancing, physical distancing, hand washing and wearing a mask. Otherwise, this plateau will not be there. We will continue to see some rise in cases.
Sir, in the national capital, like you had said in the press conference that Delhi might have witnessed the peak. We have seen a marginal increase, but increase is there. The government has said that it will double the testing. The RT-PCR remains a concern. How do you see this recent rise in the national capital and the testing? How do you comment on that?
So I think testing in the national capital now is something that has become quite standard. We have now the rapid antigen kits, we have the RT-PCR, many new labs have been opened up. The government is also looking at a policy of now making testing more liberal, that it can be done more, the guidelines can be changed. But I think what we need to really look at is that I do agree that there is a slight increase in the number of cases in Delhi. That is a cause of concern because we don't want a second spike happening in Delhi. And we need to be aggressive in our policy of containment, of making sure that we pick up clusters, hotspots, and aggressively act there so that cases do not increase. At the same time, continue with our effort of increasing awareness among the public of the preventive measures that they need to take.
Well, of course, the other important part that everybody keeps asking about is about the vaccines and the research and the development for a vaccine for COVID. Dr. Randeep Guleria said that India was in a good position with 3 different vaccine candidates currently in various stages of development. Of course, depending on the results, the country could get a vaccine either by end of this year or early next year. Listen in.
So I think India is in a very good position for two reasons. One is that we are having 3 vaccine trials in our own country, and we are working in parallel so that not only are the phases being done simultaneously, but even production is being started. So that once the trials are over, immediately the vaccine will be available for the public. The second issue is that India has a huge capacity to produce vaccine. 60% of the global vaccines are produced in India. So we can quickly change our facilities and a large number of vaccines can be made. However, having said that, there are two things. One is it will still take some time, some more months to have a vaccine which is safe and effective. And secondly, we will need a huge number of doses. Therefore, in the beginning, we will have to prioritize who are we going to vaccinate first. We can't vaccinate everyone.
When are we expecting? What is the timeline? Is there a timeline that the government is looking at?
So the timeline would be as early as possible, but practically speaking, if everything goes all right, because this is depending on the trials that everything is all right, we should be able to have a vaccine by the end of this year or early next year. But when you're doing research, you don't know how the next step would be, and sometimes you have to modify your design or your methodology based on the results. So if everything is all right, within the next few months, by the end of the year, we should have a vaccine. But if it needs some degree of adjustment, it may be by next year that we'll have a vaccine.
Sir, one last question on the unlock, because we will be witnessing the unlock guidelines soon. What is the one big challenge that you see coming next in the unlock phase? Because we are witnessing the metros will open up, the traveling across the border will take place in states. What is the one big challenge that is there?
As we unlock, we will have to understand that unlock doesn't mean that COVID has gone away. And as we move towards a more and more normal situation, we will have to understand that this is a new normal. This is not the normal in the pre-COVID era. And therefore, with unlocking comes more responsibility. We will have to work aggressively in making sure that wherever we have unlocking, we are able to prevent crowding, maintain physical distancing, have mask as an essential component so that the infection doesn't spread.
So,
well, moving on from that to sports in the COVID era, and let's talk a little bit about IPL now. There has been a bit of a setback already. One first hiccup for the IPL tournament with a player and staff members, 12 staff members of the Chennai Super Kings now testing positive for coronavirus in Dubai. Remember, the teams have already landed in Dubai. They're all already in quarantine, but as they got tested again, this is what has emerged, and this will be a big concern for the Chennai Super Kings team. Karishma is joining me with all the updates. Karishma, so the quarantine for the entire team gets extended for how long?
Yes, absolutely, Tanvi. The quarantine period gets extended for another week. In fact, Chennai Super Kings were to start their practice camp training from today onwards, but now the team has been sent in for another week of quarantine. And what we also know is that there is going to be one more COVID test for the entire team. Tomorrow, after which the results will be out of that particular COVID test, and then we can expect an official statement from either the BCCI or the IPL franchisee Chennai Super Kings in question. Remember, Chennai Super Kings was the only franchisee that decided to have a 5-day camp in India before leaving for UAE on the 21st of August. And what we can confirm at the moment is that there is one current India bowler that has tested positive for COVID-19, two net bowlers, and rest are the staff members of the Chennai Super Kings. We are still awaiting an official statement from the BCCI or Chennai Super Kings. But yes, this is a setback. First franchisee, first hiccup in terms of COVID-19 in UAE for IPL. The teams had already been in quarantine. They're slowly starting to come back to ground to start practice. But now all these 12 who have tested positive will have to show negative tests, and only then will they be allowed to enter the bio bubble that the BCCI is going to create once the tournament starts from the 19th of September, Tanvi.
saying, Karishma, that the bio bubble that starts will only be once the tournament starts and not before that. What are the rules and regulations meanwhile, since the teams are already there? Obviously they've factored in extra time because they know these instances can happen, and so quarantine time has to be buffered in. But what are the special COVID rules that we will see the teams follow from here on?
Well, yes, Tanvi, bio bubble will the players and everybody, the entire contingent of this Indian Premier League will move into the bio bubble once the quarantine period is over and everybody that is involved with the IPL has tested negative. Only then will everyone be allowed to move to the bio bubble that has been created by the BCCI. And for the moment, what we know is that all these 12 members who tested positive are asymptomatic and are under quarantine in isolation in their respective hotels. So nothing serious at the moment. They are all stable. But yes, BCCI has come out with detailed guidelines as to what needs to be done when a player or anybody who's involved with the IPL tests positive, and that is being followed by the Chennai Super Kings, where the entire 12 members have been kept in isolation in confinement, and they will be given COVID tests regularly, and until and unless they return at least 2 to 3 negative tests, they will not be allowed to join camp or play in the IPL, whichever is earlier, Tanvi.
All right, Karishma, of course, we will be keeping a close eye. Still a few, quite a few weeks to go before the tournament starts. But the first setback coming in for the Chennai Super Kings team. Everybody else now will have to be in quarantine and will need to get tested before they can get back to training and on the field. Thanks, Karishma, so much for bringing us these updates on the IPL. Welcome back. As you know, viewers, Mirror Now has launched a campaign to help amplify the voice of those students who are slotted to give the JEE and the NEET exam but are stuck in places with no transport option and far away from their examination center. There are examples from across the country outside the big cities of students whose examination center is 100, 200, 300 kilometers away. They can't afford, their own vehicle or a private vehicle. State transport is difficult to come by, and they don't know how they're going to make it to their examination center. So Mirror Now has decided to amplify their voice, to carry it on our platform, take it to the state governments and the central government in the hope that somebody listens and creates an support system for our young minds, for our young students who are going to be giving an exam that essentially decides which way their entire career will be heading. Here are a few of those voices. More and more videos are coming in. We've been flooded for the last 24 hours, and if you have a similar issue, you too can send us your video, tag us on our social media handles, and we will also take your voice on our platform.
I am from Samastipur, Bihar. My examination center is in Patna. It is 150 kilometers away, and due to the COVID condition, there is no transport available. Recently, I have lost my grandparents, and I don't want my parents to lose. Really, even if examination is conducted in these conditions, classes will start late. So what's the logic behind it to take examination in September? I am in so much in stressful condition. I can't tell what I am going through. So that's why, how will I go there and face the COVID problems? And I don't understand the logic of Pokhriyal sir that that downloading admit card is the criteria that we want to give examination. Sir, it is just to know the center. Where is my center? That's why we have downloaded admit card, sir. Sorry, sir, but we are not able to give examination in this condition. So please consider our problem. Please, I request.
Well, viewers, before I end this show, I would like you to remember that when no country went under lockdown, we did, and it brought about huge amount of uncertainty, and no one knew how many livelihoods would get affected. Times Chronicles, in fact, has put together a special feature called